to our broadcast today. You're live with, I'm Kristen Gruwell with Century 21 Goodyear Green. This is Sherry Methvin. She's also with Century 21 Goodyear Green. Hey, Sherry.
Hey.
And in a little while, we'll be joined by Stu Fleischman. He is now with RCB Bank and is currently at baseball practice. Sherry, have you ever looked at his Facebook page for the Oklahoma Militia Baseball? They're really active.
I have not.
You got to check it out. They do a lot of fundraising, and he is really active with that, with his son.
I know. He's very active with his son's baseball for sure. So pretty cool.
So some of the things that I thought we would talk about today with you guys is how you go about buying a house. First of all, anybody that is here live or that's watching this broadcast later in the recap, let us know. Have you bought a house before, or was it maybe so long ago that it feels like the first time again? Let us know in the comments. And then keep in mind, too, that we do have some materials that you can download. So if you let us know in the comments that you'd like to receive that, we'll make sure that you get a copy of all of our buyer resources. We've got those all ready to go, Sherry.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So what should we talk about? I want to talk about why should somebody hire a realtor anyway?
I think that's a really good place to start.
That's a really good place to start. Why should somebody hire somebody like you or me to get out there and help them find a house?
I think it's just our knowledge base, don't you? I mean, I've closed 200 homes, and most people haven't closed that many before. Most people haven't been through the process that many times. So I have 200 times more experience than most people.
That's a good point.
Helps. All kinds of things can happen in a transaction. So it's good to have someone who has experience who's working with you.
And one thing's for sure, no matter what, no two transactions are ever the same, are they?
No.
The ones that you think are going to be really easy, something will always come up. It's a promise.
Oh, I don't know. I closed one today, and it didn't really have anything come up, so it was awesome. It was good. It happened.
Well, congratulations, closing day! Yay for your clients.
Thank you. It was very fun.
They must be
very
really
smooth, and that makes it even more fun.
Yeah, I love being able to help people too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, one of the biggest parts after somebody starts working with a realtor is the financing piece. And as soon as Stu joins us, we'll let him cover all of that goes into applying for a mortgage, because it's pretty involved. We'll talk a little bit about searching for a home, making an offer, and then kind of what happens in the transaction, and then getting to the closing like Sherry did today. So, Sherry, you want to talk about like what it takes to find the right home?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the first thing you really want to do, well, the very first thing that you want to do is really talk to a lender. There are a lot of things that you're going to need to know before you start home searching. One of them is how much you can afford. So I think that's a great place to start. When, like Kristen said, when Stu gets here, he will fill you in on some of that stuff. But one of the things the lender will do is be able to tell you how much home you can afford. And I will say that when you're looking on those websites like Zillow, for example, they don't include the taxes and insurance when they're talking about house payment. So it can be a little deceiving when you're trying to figure out what you think you can afford.
Yeah,
so make sure to talk to a lender first.
A real surprise.
Yeah, could be a lot of difference. So when you're looking for a house, I mean, the obvious things you want to think about are, where do you want to be? Do you have kids that you want them in a certain school district? Do you need a certain number of square feet? What size house do you live in now? Do you want it to be bigger or smaller? How many bedrooms do you need? Do you have a lot of guests that come over? Those are just some things that you want to consider when you're considering what kind of home you want to buy. Style is another important thing. I mean, we can't necessarily always, when we're sending listings to you from the MLS, we can't necessarily narrow down like grays or browns when we're looking at colors, or different colored cabinets in the kitchen. But that's a really good place to look at reason to look at the pictures. So, and other things, features. Some homes that are for sale have lots of features like thick crown molding and pools and outdoor patios and lots of garages. And so They might have not lots of garages, but maybe 3 or 4 garages, which may be important to you. And then there's other homes out there that are very basic. They have basic appliances, but you usually get more money per square foot, or you get more house for your money, basically. So, and also, do you want land? That's another consideration. So if you've considered all those things, then that's how you'll find a home. So those are good things to tell your realtor so that they can help you to find that perfect home that you're looking for. And on that note, I do want to say that it is very difficult. Don't go out looking for the perfect home. Just know that you're probably not going to find something that's going to meet every single criteria you're looking for. When we moved up to Oklahoma City about almost exactly 18 years ago, my husband and I looked and looked and looked, and finally we found a house. It wasn't our dream home. And our plan was for a 3 to 5 year purchase, stay in the home 3 to 5 years. In fact, my husband's a builder. I wasn't a realtor at the time, but we knew that we would be moving into a home that my husband built. But it's been 18 years and we still live in the same house.
And you haven't sent a change of address quite yet, have you?
No. But one of the things we found is that our home is where our family is. And we've really just enjoyed staying here in this house. And we've got great neighbors, and we've made the house to be what we really wanted it to be, even though at the time when we bought it, it wasn't that. So that's just something to consider when you're looking for a home. So if you're watching, please feel free to comment. What is one feature that you're absolutely love to have in a new home when you're searching?
Farmhouse, modern and open.
And barn doors. Maybe some barn doors would be cool.
Lots of barn doors. I posted a video yesterday of these great old barns that had been turned into homes.
Oh, that's cool.
And several of them in the comments, it said, and they have barn doors. And I wondered, if it's a barn, isn't it just a door? Is it a barn door still?
I think that makes it a double barn door.
That must have been better. Chip and Joanne would be so pleased, wouldn't they? Oh, here's Hannah. Hannah says that she would love to have open concept.
That's awesome.
Yeah, everybody wants open concept. But the thing, Hannah, about that's difficult for us to put into search criteria. So you want to keep in mind, sometimes we might send you listings that we think when we look at the pictures that it looks like it might be open, and then we'll get there and it's not as open as you would have hoped.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely.
Oh, here's another one. Chandra, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She has to have a big kitchen with lots of storage, counters, and plugins. Plugins, that is a good point. That is important for sure. Tell Mark to pay more attention. We might need to have lots and lots of plugins.
Okay. He's actually listening in. So
there you go. Mark, we want lots of plugs. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the comments there that we had.
That's awesome. Again, thank you for commenting. Keep them coming. We'd love to have more.
Yeah, lots of questions and comments. That makes this a lot more fun for us. Speaking of searching, there are lots of places that you can go and search for homes. You guys, what's your favorite website to go to when you're just looking online and wanting to look at pretty houses? Anybody have one that is their go-to?
Christy, mine is the MLS.
Here's the MLS. If you don't know what the MLS is, that stands for Multiple Listing Service. And that's where we have all of our listings kind of all kept together. Years and years ago, well before I was in real estate or before Sherry, it was actually a book of all the listings, and it got delivered to all the brokers' offices. And can you imagine? Then the realtors would go through this page by page trying to find just the right house. And from what I understand, sometimes the houses were already gone. They were already sold before that book even got to the broker's office. Aren't you glad that we have the internet now, Sherry?
Absolutely. I think it's great because everybody kind of gets to go and do their first tour through the MLS. When they're looking at the pictures, it's almost like a first look at the house. It's like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. By the time you get there, you're on your second tour. So yeah. Things don't always look like they do in the pictures, but I think it's a great way to be able to determine if it's the house for you and if it has dark cabinets or white cabinets.
or if it looks like it might be, yeah. And also, looking for like open concept and stuff, a good place to look for that information is in the realtor's remarks in the description that you read. A lot of times you're going to find some real nuggets of information. There's some things in there. Oh, she says we've lost the connection.
Oh no.
Huh.
Mark,
we're going to keep on going. Maybe it was just a blip, and we will keep on going. Ask Mark. Mark said he's looking.
Yeah. Mark, are we still connected? He's not responding.
He's not responding. So we'll just keep on going and hope that maybe it was just a blip in the screen. Another place I think I kind of lost my train of thought with that. We were talking about places that people could search, and another one is yay, Hannah says
we're good. Oh, we're back and we're still on. That's good.
Yay, thanks, Hannah.
Yay, okay.
Thank you.
You didn't miss much.
We were just trying to figure out where we were.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when you're looking for a home, another great place, if you're not looking on the MLS and you're looking at consumer-directed websites, and a lot of those popular ones, one of them that you probably have heard of is Zillow, that one, or Trulia. But our favorite to send you to when you're looking at that type of website would be Realtor.com. That's going to have the most accurate information, and it's updated right away. So you're going to get all the pictures and all of the details that you're looking for. And if something goes under contract, it'll just disappear from Realtor.com. So I think that's my favorite place to send folks.
Me too. I agree with you.
Another thing that when you're looking for houses, sometimes a good idea is if you're really looking for a specific neighborhood, it's not a bad idea to drive by and look for those yard signs and look and see what's coming available. Sometimes you'll get the first, because as soon as that sign goes up, then you'll know. And that's a good time to talk about when you do that, though. Don't always don't always call the realtor on the sign. It's best if you have a realtor that is a buyer's representative that is working for you. So if you see that, just jot down the address and give your agent a call, and they will make sure that you get to see that right away. But then if you're going to go by and you see that there's an open house, fair game. Go on in, and ask lots of questions. Just let them know, hey, I'm working with somebody, and thanks, Chandra. Thanks for the love. Let them know that you're working with somebody, but they're there to sell the house. So there's no harm in asking questions. And sometimes people come into open houses and they think that they have to be all top secret and not make eye contact, but it's good. They know the house. They can answer all the questions you have. Sherry, Mark's a builder. What do you have to say about model homes? Can you think of anything, give any insight about people when they go in and talk to a builder?
Again, just make sure if you're represented by a realtor, just make sure and tell the builder that you have a realtor that you're working with. And a lot of times those model homes are super beautiful, and also they have upgrades in them. So make sure and stay aware of that. They have upgrades in them that don't necessarily come in the house that you would be buying. So you might have to pay a little bit more for that.
Or a lot more.
Sometimes, that's true. A lot more.
Sometimes
it has a carpet and it's got wood floors. Yes, you're going to pay more for that. So
yeah, there are a lot of builders that'll do that. They put their best foot forward in that model home. That's for sure.
And they put really nice decorations in them too, so they look really good.
Yeah. And when you're driving through the neighborhoods and you're looking at signs, sometimes you might see a house that says for sale by owner. And what that means is that they have not hired a realtor to list their house. They may have paid a fee to get it in the MLS, so that if you're looking on Realtor.com, you'll still see that listing. But they are not working with a realtor. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to sell their house, and they may be very willing to work with your buyer's agent. It's just something that you need to that your buyer's agent will have to talk to that seller about before you go and take a look.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something? Go back and about seeing the yard signs. Can I add something?
Yes. Yes.
So on yard signs, and she said, make sure if there's a neighborhood where you want to go, make sure and drive around in that neighborhood. Their yard signs may go into, and the rules are they can go in up to 48 hours before they're listed on the MLS. So if you are driving around that neighborhood that you want to see, just make sure and call your agent, because you might get a first look at that property before anybody else on the MLS sees it, which is a good thing if it's a popular neighborhood.
I promise you, if I am listing the house, that sign is up 48 hours beforehand.
Yes. Gotta get the interest out. So very fun.
So let's say that you've found the house, and you've gone and you've toured it, and you're ready to make an offer. What do you do? What's next, Sherry?
Well, making an offer, just so you know, it doesn't cost you anything to make an offer. Maybe about an hour of your time, or at least how long does it usually take to sit down for you guys to write an offer, Kristen?
Oh, it probably, maybe an hour. A lot of times too. I'll do the offer on my own in the office, and then I'll send it for people to review online.
Mm-hmm.
And we go over it. I have a little video that I send and talk to you about all the parts of the offer, so that you feel comfortable with it. And so usually it can be done, in an hour or so.
Yeah, I usually think if I meet somebody in the office, it usually takes about an hour, and just kind of go over all aspects of the offer. And but it doesn't cost you anything. We might actually ask you for a check called earnest money at the time, but it doesn't actually cost you anything until you actually go under contract. So earnest money, let me talk about that a little bit. Earnest money actually is just some amount of money that you're telling you're going to actually turn it into a title company or into a realtor's office. Your realtor will do that. And that money is actually saying, I'm truly interested in your property. I'm earnest about buying this property. So earnest money can be anywhere from $500 to, a lot of times people will look at it like they want maybe 1% of the sales price as earnest money. Do you have any thoughts about that, Kristen?
No, that's usually about right. I think in some markets they do have kind of a set amount or a certain expectation of what that earnest money will be. Here, I don't think it's that way. Usually, I see most of the time it's between $500 and $2,000, depending on the home. The one thing, though, that I find a lot of people are surprised with is that it has to be a personal check, and not many people have those or even know where to start.
It's less and less. Well, it could be a cashier's check. It could be money order or something like that.
Yeah, but those things take a little bit more time to figure out.
Yeah, they have to make a copy of it at the office, wherever it is, and they can't make a copy of cash. It's illegal.
Yeah, apparently you can't do that. They don't like that.
Not a good idea. So
what about
earnest
Bitcoin?
money.
You think that maybe they'll start taking Bitcoin?
Probably not. We were just talking about Bitcoin last night. Anyway, so earnest money, what you'll do as part of the offer process is you'll actually write out a check, and we'll make a copy of it, and we'll hold the check until it's actually under contract. At that point, we'll take that check and we'll deposit it. It will actually get deposited and withdrawn from your account. And when you close on the property, then you'll get that back as a credit in your purchase. So you don't have to worry about losing it. There's also several ways if the contract falls apart in the middle of it for one reason or another, there are some ways to get that earnest money back. So not to worry. Okay, so making an offer, pricing, that's kind of a question mark, right? I know everybody wants a really good price on a house. As your realtor, I would sit down and do some comparables on the neighborhood. Maybe on the neighborhood, maybe on the zip code, maybe on the town that you're in, and trying to find a house that is very similar in size, similar in number of rooms, similar in area, and maybe similar in age. And we'll try to look at what those houses are selling for. And what kind of, that's the best place to go, really. That's where you want to try to be in that price range when, well, hey, Stu.
Look at here.
So you want to try to make your offer in the best price range based on the comparables. Courtney just asked a question. She said,
Oh, I see that. I was worried about getting Stu up into the broadcast.
Oh, yes. Oh, so if the earnest money doesn't get cashed in, it gets cashed when the offer is completed, when it goes under contract, and then it actually gets refunded to you when you close on the property as part of your down payment or as part of your closing costs. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, very good. So seller concessions is something else to consider. Some of the things you'll think about when you're writing an offer, just by the way, what price you want to buy the house for. You'll want to know when you might want to close on the house. And you'll want to know if you want a home warranty. We can explain more about home warranties later, but those are just some items that you want to think about when you're purchasing a home. Also, there's another seller concessions. You may not know this, but when you purchase a home, there are closing costs that are associated with that, and they can run anywhere from $4,000 on up. So it's not a small amount. It's a significant amount. But one of the things you can do when you're purchasing a home, if you don't have that, in addition to the down payment, is you can ask the seller to pay those part or some of those closing costs as part of your offer. You do have to consider that when you're actually figuring out a price, because if you're asking for closing costs, you are actually, for the seller's bottom line, you're actually reducing their bottom line. For example,
both. You can't get you can't get $5,000 off and all my closing costs paid. That won't work.
Well, here's the thing: if you're buying a $100,000 house, let's say you're asking for $5,000, the seller to pay $5,000 towards your closing costs. You're actually offering the seller $95,000 as opposed to $100,000. So when you take $5,000 off the price and you ask for $5,000 in closing costs, you're actually trying to take $10,000 off the $100,000 house, and that's probably not going to be very successful.
Yeah,
unless the house is just so overpriced.
Yeah,
and most sellers don't think their houses are so overpriced.
And if it is overpriced, they're not gonna take that much less.
No, and also, and there's certain price ranges where you want to think about. Your agent can call the other agent. Are there any other offers going on this property? And that's another thing to consider when you're making your offer. If there are other offers already made on the property, or if there might be a possibility that some are coming in, that you might want to consider that when you're making your offer as well.
We lost Stu.
We lost Stu. Wonder how that happened. So, where is he?
He just disappeared. He was getting into his car, I think. Maybe it was like where his Bluetooth connected or something. Who knows? I'm sure he'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, Chandra's asking if you can roll your closing costs into your loan. And the only way you can really roll your closing costs into your loan is by asking the seller to pay for them. And that's really...
Stu is back, and I think that would be a good question for Stu.
That's a great question.
Stu, we have a question that has been asked. Chandra asked can you roll closing costs into your loan? Did you hear me?
He's frozen.
He's frozen. I don't know
what's stunned by the question.
Anyway, I think Stu is having some connection problems.
Do you want to try to answer that question then?
Let's see. I think he's...
Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
hey guys,
there he is.
Can you see me, guys?
We can.
Yeah, I can now.
Did you hear Chandra's question?
I did hear the question right as I was left, but the answer to that question is no. You cannot roll the closing costs into your loan on a home purchase. You can on a refinance transaction, but that may be later down the line, since we're doing this class over first-time home buyers. But there are or may be programs out there available for you for first-time home buyers that you can look into at least getting some, if not all, of the closing costs paid for as well. So that's one option, but for the most part, the answer is going to be no. You cannot roll the closing costs into your loan.
You can if you get the seller to pay them, basically, right?
Yeah, that is definitely correct, but that's on y'all side there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can kind of try to work it into the offer, but it's not rolled into the loan.
Yes.
Well, Stu, now that you're here, how was baseball practice?
Well, it got dark a little bit faster than we wanted it to, but you gotta do what you gotta do when this time of year. So, gotta get my boys ready, and we had a good practice though. So, I'm sorry about being late, and I'm glad I'm here now though.
Oh no, that's fine. I'm glad that you had great weather for practicing today.
Oh yeah, great weather today.
Oh, definitely. So.
Well, now that you're here, would you like to talk a little bit about about the pre-approval process? Because really, that's the very first step somebody needs to take if they're interested in buying a home.
Definitely. The first step to buying a home is definitely to get pre-qualified. You can reach out to any lender, myself, or any lender out there. The pre-qualification process is very simple. A lot of people are afraid of it, but you shouldn't be. The first thing we're going to do is take a pre-qualification application, which is your general information, your name, your social, date of birth, your current address, and things like that. We'll start to collect some of your personal documentation, such as your income and asset documentation, tax returns for the past 2 years, W-2s to go along with them, past 30 days of pay stubs, also your past 2 months of bank statements. What we'll do is we'll tailor your pre-qualification towards your financial goals and needs. So we're asked questions that may seem really basic or, well, why are you asking that? But it's all to benefit you and to get you into the best loan program possible. And that's ultimately what myself or any realtor that's working with you is they want you to do. I mean, it's the safer bet. You don't want to go out there shopping for a home and not be pre-qualified and then come to find out you can't get pre-qualified. So always consult with the home lender, first step. From there, I send you back to the girls here and they'll get you taken care of. Yeah.
I have a question for you. So if I'm getting pre-qualified for a loan, and you run my credit, does that lower my credit?
It will. We do pull a hard credit pull there with the Tri-Merge credit report with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. When we do pull that, you will lose anywhere from 3 to 5 points depending on the bureau. However, that credit pull is valid for up to 120 days based off of that moment. So we won't really have to pull your credit again. We will do a credit checkup, typically about 5 days before closing, but that won't hurt your score. But the initial credit report will affect your score there by about 3 to 5 points, but you do gain those back if a credit line was not opened in that 30-day period, that initial 30-day period there. And then once you have 6 months worth of payments, you can gain those points back and maybe even some more. So
Stu, talking about credit, what minimum credit score should somebody be thinking that they need to have before they could even dream about buying a home?
Well, each loan product and each company is going to vary. Now, typically, you want to have a 640 or greater for a majority of programs, but there are programs that go as low as 580 even right now on an FHA loan. But typically, you want to have 640 or greater to have a wide variety of different products available to you.
And then as far as down payment, how much down payment would somebody need to have in reserves in order to be able to close?
Well, that's a two-part question there. So I'm going to answer the first part being down payment. So the majority of programs out there require some form of down payment, whether that be on FHA, which is 3.5% down payment. You have conventional that does require a minimum of 5% down payment. You have HUD 184, which is for Native Americans. That is a 2.25% down payment requirement. And then you have conventional and also, you have USDA and VA loans for veterans that are geared to help sometimes out there with a 0 down requirement. However, there you may get discounts if you put more down. The second part of your question there did involve the reserve requirements. Now, each and every single lender is going to be different on their own overlays. And when I mean overlays, I mean their own condition to the file. Everyone's going to be different. Now, typically, you want to at least have at least 3 months of reserves in your bank account. And when we talk about reserves, that's going to be your total monthly payment, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You want to have your full payment 3 times that in the form of a checking, savings, 401k, stocks, bonds, some form of asset that can be used for the home loan application. You want to have at least 3, but you can get away sometimes with none even, but 3 is a good number to have.
And is that in addition to the down payment or separate?
That is in addition to the down payment. Now, like I said earlier, you can sometimes get away with no reserves or very minimal reserves, but consult with a home lender on your pre-qualification to determine what you will need.
Great.
All right. And be sure at any time to ask any questions about the loan process if you need to. We'd love to help you get them answered.
Definitely. So I'm here at any time as well. Just feel free to contact us, through this live webinar or through any application possible, whether it be phone, text, email. I'm here to answer questions. Any lender is going to be there to answer questions for you. It's our job to make sure that you have all the answers you can possibly want when it comes time for your home finance purchase.
And our phone numbers will be at the end of our webinar tonight.
Yeah, we'll put that up. And I guess you probably need to do you need to get going, Stu?
I will get loaded up here, and then I'll join back up on the webinar with my home computer. That way, I'm not.
That'd be great. Okay, so
maybe we have a few more things that would be great to hear.
Thinking about it while he drives home.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, I will see you guys in here in a little bit. Think of any questions you have about the lending process, and then I guess we can go over a little bit of the actual process of the lending. Everything that goes into the actual loan itself when it gets there.
Yeah, that would be great.
Appraisal, disclosure, stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, guys. I'll see you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye, Stu.
Bye, Stu. Back to his dad job.
Yeah. So right now, does anybody have any questions? Is there any questions from out in the group? Be sure to put those up there whenever and I'll try to keep my eye on the comments so that I can get those posted for you. Let's see.
So what happens after we have a contract? What happens after we go under contract?
Well, once you get it under contract, then that we talked a little bit about that earnest money. That's kind of the first step, is getting that earnest money deposited, and then we're blazing towards inspections. Once you have the property under contract, you have usually 10, sometimes more if you wrote it into the offer, but typically 10 days to inspect the property for whatever you want. I like to say that you can inspect it even to see if the place is haunted. Whatever you want, make sure that all the spirits are just right. But typically you're going to do a whole house inspection and a termite inspection. Most loans are going to require that you have it have the termite inspection, and those inspections are paid for at the time of service in most cases, and so that's going to be a little bit more money that you're going to be wanting to kind of be thinking about. A home inspection is usually around $300, $400, and a termite, most every company out there I think is $100 for that inspection. Most of these companies, though, they do take credit cards, so that can kind of help you if you want to just put those inspections on a card and go forward with that. One thing to keep in mind about inspections is after they're completed. Let's say that you find something in the house that makes you uncomfortable. It's like, oh gosh, no, the AC is completely out. I don't want to take that on. Then at that time, you can cancel the contract, which is great. You are protected. You get your earnest money back. But the money that you spent for those inspections is non-refundable. Those were for services that were completed on your behalf, and that money, you still have those bills to pay. But after the inspections are done, you will get a report from the inspector, and it'll outline all of the things that he found with the property. And it's going to have some major things, some things that we really need to focus on. And those are things that are have to do with the safety or the structure of the house. Then they're going to find things that just are no big deal. Oh, here's a question from Chandra. Does a termite inspection need to be done on a mobile or manufactured home? It certainly does, because the termites live in the earth, and if they have any contact with wood at all, and then they are able to work their way up into the house. So yes, you have to have
definitely want to get a termite inspection.
Yes. Back to the inspections. They're going to find maybe some things that are really big wrong with the house, but they're probably going to find lots of piddly little stuff.
They're going to find things. They're going to find things. That's what their job is. Yeah.
It's their job. There are things. We've been in our house now since 2002, and there are things that were on our inspection report that we still haven't fixed.
Same thing with us. Same thing. I was looking at it not too long ago, and I was like, that's still a problem. But it's not a problem.
Oh, well. They're going to find drippy faucets. The one thing they really like to find are doors that don't quite latch properly, or that stick, those kind of things. So you don't want to worry. Don't get too focused on those repairs. You're going to then have the opportunity to ask for some repairs to be completed. You got to think of this as like another negotiation that you're going to have with the seller. Earlier, you negotiated the purchase price and some of the terms of the contract. Now you're going to negotiate with the repairs. So when you're thinking about things that need to be done, of course, anything that is the health and safety for you, those things we want to address those right away. But if they were things that you could see when you toured the house, like if you knew that cabinet door was wonky and you made an offer anyway, you factored that in when you made your offer. You thought, oh, I'm going to have to fix that. Mm-hmm. So you really shouldn't. You can, but you really shouldn't ask for that item then to be on that repair request.
I also think things not to put on the repair request, because oftentimes when you put those things on that repair request, the seller is going to go out there. The seller doesn't care about his house anymore, and he's going to go out there and he's going to fix those things himself. So you want to make sure you're not putting things like caulking or just something cosmetic that they could easily mess up and kind of make your house not look so great anymore. So things that you think the seller might be doing that you could probably do yourself, I would probably just do it myself or hire a handyman once you move in.
Yeah, I've seen some sellers that have done caulking and you go back and it looks like frosting on a cake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that.
Fingerprint all the way down.
That is my best example. Don't have the seller do caulking. Don't.
Yeah, never.
Not around the tub, not around the windows. Just don't do it. It's bad idea.
The next part of the transaction as we go along is going to be the appraisal. Now, Stu will probably mention that again, but the appraisal is something that is paid for when they, at the beginning. Once you get in contract, that's going to be something you pay the lender for that service. And they will go out then and they're going to give it an appraised value. Now, the appraised value, when you look at values on a house, you have the tax assessor's value, which you always want to be really low so that you have really low taxes. Then you have the market value. And if you're the seller, you want that to be really high. And then you have the appraised value. What we want when that appraiser goes out is we want him to find that value is the same as our purchase price.
Or less.
Pardon me?
Or less.
Or less. Well, yeah, we don't want the appraised value to come back less than.
I'm sorry. You want it to be more. I'm sorry. Yes, more. You want it to be more.
Because, yeah, if we don't want it to come back as being less than what we've agreed to in our contract. And so that after that step, then the seller is completing the repairs and we are cruising towards closing. And at that point, most anything that you're having to do is going to be with a lender like Stu. And since he's not here, I'll tell you a secret. They're going to ask you for tons of documents. And when you think you've given them everything, the phone is going to ring and they're going to call and it's going to be Stu. And he's going to say, hey, I need one more document. You got to get it to them, no matter if you think it's stupid or not. You have to get that document to them because that is going to that could potentially delay your closing. And I or Sherry can't do anything to move it along any faster. And what you really want is to get into your house by the closing date.
I always say that give them what they want, because they're asking for, or they're going to give you a lot of money. So, so just give them what they want. They're giving you a lot of money and they're trusting you with that. So just smile and give it to them, because they're going to give you money so you can have keys to a brand new house.
Yeah. And so that is an important part. So then once we're moving towards closing, and then we're going to the title company. And like we said, that's where Sherry was today. The closing is usually at one of the title companies, and you're going to be there as the buyer, and then your realtor, and then like Sherry was today with her clients, they were selling their house.
Mm-hmm.
So they're there, and so is the listing agent.
Yep. And so what you want to bring when you come to the closing, you want to make sure and bring you got to have a valid driver's license. So I've had buyers or sellers show up with an invalid, like their expired driver's license. It's not
I had that happen a week ago.
Yeah, that's not good. It delays things. It's kind of a problem. So make sure before you close that you look at your driver's license and make sure it's accurate and not expired. But you can also bring a passport or something like that, just something that identifies you. And also, when you're coming to closing and you're bringing some money, which you usually are, you're either required quite often you'll either have to have a cashier's check from the bank, or anymore, a lot of title companies are actually asking your bank to have your bank wire the funds to the title company, as opposed to actually bringing a cashier's check. And that will be dependent on which title company that you're using at the time. So you'll want to have a valid driver's license and the money in some form or another. And then what'll happen is you'll sit there as the buyer, you'll be there and you'll sign a ton of papers. And some of them will be the same thing over and over again. It just doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. So sign away, bring your handwriting that day, and your hand will be tired when you're done. And at the end of it, the title company lady will disappear, and then she'll come back and she'll say, here's your paperwork, you own a house. And then the seller will give you the keys, and you'll have a house. It's a done deal. Garage door openers, keys, and sometimes codes for garage doors and alarms and stuff like that. So, and you'll get to go home to your brand new house. So very fun. Very exciting. It's a really exciting time, especially on your first one. I remember when we bought our first house, laying in our bed, just thinking, wow, this place is mine. I cannot believe I own a house. And it was just really fun. And we had a little baby girl at the time. Is she still on here? She might be. Anyway, a lot of fun. And I guess that's it. You get the keys to your own house.
Yeah, you get your keys to your house. Unfortunately, if anybody has any questions, we can answer those now. But Stu has not made it back, and so we may have to get some of those questions, a little bit more information from him about the lending process another time.
Well, I can talk a little bit. A lot of times there's some confusion between an inspection, a home inspection by the home inspector, and the appraiser. So basically, when you hire, you or your realtor work together and hire a home inspector. And the home inspector is going around, he's plugging a little thing in your plugs, and he's turning on the water, and he's turning on the dishwasher, and he's making sure there's no leaks under the sink, and he's walking on your roof and making sure that works, and he's looking at your heat and air and your water heater. And so then he gives you a list of things that are wrong. Some that probably need to be fixed and some that don't, but he's not requiring anything be fixed. The appraiser is actually hired by the bank. I don't have any control over who the appraiser is. The bank really doesn't have any control over who the appraiser is. It's kind of a weird process, but it's just trying to keep everything as, I guess, legitimate as possible, so that there's no good old boy networks in trying to price the house. So the appraiser goes out and he measures the house, and then he might look around and make sure the water heater's working, make sure to see certain types of loans. There may be some requirements for safety issues, broken windows, or foundation issues that he may actually require that things are fixed prior to the purchase of the home. So that's a little bit different than what the inspector does.
That's a good point. It's very often that it's confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one is hired by you. The other one's actually kind of hired by you because you're paying for it, but it's not the same. The appraiser doesn't do nearly the detailed work that the home inspector does.
Yeah. I find often a lot of that confusion seems to come with VA loans. I don't know if some people are referring to, because the VA is a little bit more particular, and their appraisers are much, they're also having to check to make sure on the safety of the home, and so they're just more picky, and so
maybe the VA calls them inspectors.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they get called that very often, and so
that's kind of confusing. Yeah,
it's very confusing.
Yes. So, you guys have any questions for us? We feel like we've pretty much covered, quite a bit of it. One of the things I was thinking we didn't cover was how the actual process goes of showing a house. Like, what happens? So we kind of skipped over that. So do you want to cover that? You want me to cover that?
Well, I can tell you how I do it. And then if there's anything
I can tell you how I do it.
If it works a little differently, you can feel free to chime in.
There's no real rules, actually.
I find usually I will send people listings, through email that I think might be a good fit for them. But really more often than that, because people are spending so much time online and searching in so many different channels, that people are sending me a list of homes that they would like to see. And then I might add a few that I think would also fit the bill. And so I kind of take that list, and then we go and set a time to go and tour properties. Usually we'll meet at the first house and then kind of caravan and follow along from house to house. We usually I allow maybe 30 minutes for each property. And so that includes maybe a little bit of travel time, especially if they're all in the same neighborhood. Now it's a little bit more if we're more spread out. But we go into the house usually, and I'll unlock the door, and I will go around and start to get the lights and allow you to check it out. Kind of, you get to look at the house, because this potentially could be your home. While you're in the house, it's perfectly okay to open up closets, open up drawers, open up cabinets.
Even if there's someone living there, it's okay to open those doors.
It's okay to look. Yeah. People tend to, for whatever reason, I might even tease you a little bit, but whenever people walk into the kitchen, they always open the refrigerator. I don't know why. It's because it's like habit when you're at home, open up the refrigerator. That you don't need to do, because they're taking it. You don't get to, the refrigerator is not a fixture. It's personal property, so that won't be staying with the house. But everything else, look at it. It is fine to go outside, walk the property. You can even, if you want to, pull down the attic and the garage, and you can look up there if you want. It's going to be your house, so don't feel bashful. Don't feel
you want to know.
Yeah, you want to be at home. But I will say, if you are bringing your kiddos with you, when we walk in, I don't know what we're walking into. It's probably when I'm seeing it for the first time along with you. So I don't know if they've left out things that are dangerous, I don't know if there are little safety things on the outlets, or if there's
guns. Sometimes there's guns.
I have no idea. So keep your kids close at hand. I am happy if you need to really spend some time and look. I am happy to play Simon Says or anything, to entertain your kiddos, or sit there and rock a baby in a carrier. I have done that plenty of times. I go up and down stairs if I have to. But we want to keep them as close to you as possible, or with me. It's fine. Do you have anything?
Yeah, Courtney brings up a good point. She just sent in a message and said that was a good point. That back on seller concessions, typically the refrigerator and the washer and dryer do not come with the home. Typically, what the appliances that come are the dishwasher, the stove, oven, and also a built-in microwave. Those are the things that typically come with a home. Or maybe if it's a built-in refrigerator, sometimes those built-in refrigerators will stay. But you can ask the seller as part of the negotiation to leave their refrigerator or their washer and dryer It just kind of depends on how that, if the seller is attached to those things or not. So yes, Courtney, you can negotiate that stuff.
Yeah. However, it does not add any value to the house. The appraiser, when he comes, is not going to give an additional $500 for a refrigerator.
In fact, we have to write it on a separate form because it's basically personal property and not real estate. Mm-hmm.
So, and another thing to think about that was a great question.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Stu may not be back. He's having connection issues again.
No. Is there anything else that he was going to discuss that maybe we should make sure and cover?
He didn't.
I'll look through the notes.
Yeah, but if nobody else has
everything.
Questions, or Sherry, if you don't have anything else to add, I would say, let us know. We have, if you would like to get those resources that we have, if you'd like us to send them over to you, please just let us know in the comments and share this, because if you are thinking about buying a home, there's a good chance that someone else is looking for a home. So share this either through Messenger or on your timeline, and we would really appreciate that.
Yeah. There was one more thing I'm going to add in really quick. I'm sorry. One more question that everybody asks is, how long does it take to get a mortgage? Usually 30 to 45 days. So just plan that from when you make the offer to the time you can close on the house and walk away with your keys. It's usually about 30 to 45 days.
Yeah. What I like to use the holidays to keep in mind. So right now we're right at Valentine's Day. So you're kind of on the edge of, if you wanted to be in a house by spring break,
mm-hmm.
you really need to be out there running this weekend and looking. And then you might be looking at the end of the school year as when you would like to move. So then you want to be in contract probably by be really looking by about St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, another cool thing that happens when you get a mortgage is if you close, let's say March 31st, for example, in the month of March, your first payment isn't usually actually due until May 1st. So you get kind of a break, a 1 month break. In fact, if you close mid-March, that's the same thing. Your payment usually isn't due till the 1st of May. So that's kind of a fun thing too. Little bonus you get.
Chandra, yes, we'll make sure to get those resources over to you as soon as we can.
All right. How can we share our contact information?
I'm going to put a little slide up at the end.
Oh.
Get this right here.
Oh, look there.
There's our contact information, how you can get in touch with me, Sherry, or with Stu.
Jeannie's not here today.
She's not here. She's at the Olympics.
She is. Pretty exciting.
If she's watching, we should say, "Hi, Jeannie."
Hey, Jeannie.
USA. All right. Well, thanks so much.
All right. Well, very good. I appreciate everybody coming, and be sure and share this on your Facebook page, and we would love to answer any additional questions that you might have. And we're going to be online next month too, right? March.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back.
March something. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.